Morning, everybody. I hope you're well. Just a quick one this morning. I've got a new bit kit. I just really wanted to test that out, to be honest. I thought I'd do it in the form of a quick video. Just really drawing a line from kind of a pundit perspective under Bristol Rovers. Obviously, I probably speak about it on Matchday Live ahead of Saturday's trip to Fleetwood. I won't expect to be talking about it on the podcast this week. We tend to kind of steer away a little bit from games that have been played on a Saturday when we're recording on a Thursday. But I've kind of, let me know what the sound's like, by the way, if it's better, if there's wind, if there's anything like that. Really interested to know how the new mic setup works. I just really wanted to draw a line on the Saturday. I think it's easy in some quarters to kind of criticise. I think I've seen a fair few people kind of calling out individuals. I think Teo Eden took quite a bit of stick. Obviously, Adam Jackson did. When you give away a penalty and get sent off, you obviously tend to get a low rating. But I think overall there are a few things to point out about Bristol Rovers. First of all, let's not forget that we sorry, someone's put morning Gary, Jake here under a rather strange name. Hope you're well, mate. Sound is good, pal. The Schlong Man. Okay. It is easy to start calling people out and say, oh, he shouldn't be playing here or he shouldn't be playing there. And I think, certainly with Teo Eden at left back, he didn't have a great game. He wasn't the only one who didn't play well. He did give the ball away a little bit. But he did have a good game in the second half against Blackpool, and he did have a good game against Mansfield. And it's easy to let the last experience with where a player has been temper your belief. Teo shouldn't play left back. It's like if you go to a restaurant and have 3 good meals, the second you have a bad meal, you think, I'm not going back there because I've had a bad meal. But you forget the 3 good meals that you've had. So I think in terms of options, Teo is probably a third choice left back, you might argue, behind Rowan and Melbourne. If Melbourne had been fit, he would have perhaps played. And therein lies another point to make, I think, about the Bristol Rovers game this weekend. And Cornell says, we didn't deserve to lose. We did, Cornell. We did deserve to lose. We scored fewer goals. They were probably the better, more coherent side through the game. And their centre-forward, Hanlon, probably did a better job than our centre-forward did in terms of holding the ball up, creating chances and trying to bully centre-backs. So, I criticised Brandon Hanlon as a player who I couldn't see why Bristol Rovers had signed him or why Gillingham wanted to keep him. And in actual fact, I thought he had a really good game for them. I thought he was a real menace. So, but just going back to the point that kind of should be taken into consideration when mentioning the defeat is the depletion in the side at this moment in time. So we've got Joe Walsh on the bench who hasn't played as yet. Would have been hard to have put him in at centre-back, to be fair. But Joe Walsh is recovering from injury. Max Melbourne was missing. Ethan Ross, who wouldn't have played, but he was also missing. Aaron Lewis, gone away with Wales under 21. At the time of this moment in time, I don't know if he played last night. I don't know if they played last night. But he hadn't had any minutes with Wales. Brennan Johnson, who I think is one of the key kind of signings over the summer, and we haven't seen that as yet. But I think that Brennan Johnson was a big miss. I think Callum Morton injured as well. So Zach Albazedi away. There's 6 players from the squad, from what I'm told is a squad of 26, who we didn't want to drop in. I think Jamie Sewell, whilst he's going to be good cover for Tom Hopper, I think in terms of the physicality, the 3 at the back that Bristol Rovers played, Max Emma, who's a proper campaigner, Jack Baldwin, who's been around, I don't think Sewell would have got much change, to be honest. He took his goal obviously well against Mansfield. He had a decent game against Mansfield, but league action's very different, and I think he'll be eased in gently. I think he is more of an emergency cover rather than a genuine challenger for Hopper. I think had Callum Morton been fit, that would have been a big difference, because I think on 60 minutes, the first change that we make, rather than dropping Harry into right back, the first change that we make is we bring on Callum Morton for Tom Hopper and give them something more to think about going forward. Just 1 second. Charlie, come on, boy. Don't want to walk at the minute. Look, injuries happen. So this isn't me kind of trying to make excuses. The best team won. Bristol Rovers have had problems with injuries at the beginning of the season, and they're only just getting their squad back together. So it is going to happen. But I think when we're talking about performances and how it's a blip and that sort of thing, it probably wasn't entirely unexpected. I always think that there's a little bit of not complacency from the players, but I saw it in the build up to the game. Lots of fans saying 2-0 Lincoln, 3-0 Lincoln, they're 15th, we're top. Whenever we go into these big games, we always seem somehow to fall short. Wycombe last year, win at Wycombe, we would have gone clear top, lost 3-1. Bristol Rovers this year, win, we go clear top, lost. Bristol Rovers last year, where we hadn't conceded a goal in the league all season, and I know we just had the manager leave, but it was a winnable game, we lost. So that's football for you, I think. I think to start sort of saying this or that isn't working when we've won 4 games on the bounce at the beginning of the season is harsh. I haven't seen a lot of social media criticism, to be honest. I think most fans are understanding that actually this is a longer journey that we're on, and at the moment, you take the odd wrong turn. But there was 1 or 2 posters, and you'll know who they are, who kind of saying this was woeful, that was unacceptable. Woeful and unacceptable are not the sort of words that you use when you're losing your first league game in 5, having won 4 previously. And I think you probably look at Bradford City. They lost 1-0 at home to Harrogate last night. They were beaten 5-0 by us in the League Cup. There's a group of fans that are perhaps a little bit more justified in using words like woeful and unacceptable and that sort of thing. Whereas for us, I hate that saying, we go again. It's just another one of those kind of football sayings that everybody says. It's like goat. I don't like goat. I don't like limbs. I don't like, do you know what I mean? Techers, all that sort of stuff. Fuck that rubbish. But we do go again. You get back on the horse. 2 really, really tough games coming up, which I think if we were to take between 2 and 4 points from those games, we would have had phenomenal outcome. With Plymouth in the middle, so you throw Plymouth in as well, probably 5 points from the next 3 games would be really good, I think. To draw at Fleetwood, to draw with Ipswich and to beat Plymouth, or whichever way you choose to mock it up. Lose to Plymouth if we beat the other 2, I don't know. But I think the winning run eventually slows down. Speaking of Joey Barton, handy. I think these winning runs, they do come to an end. It's great to have that at the beginning of the season. James Quickfall, quite right, I'll take a point at Fleetwood. If you offered me a point at Fleetwood now, I'd say, yep, absolutely move on. Cornell thinks we're going to beat Fleetwood. Cornell, mate, if we were playing the Harlem Globetrotters at basketball, I reckon you'd say that we would win. Positivity, though, is kind of the opposite of what most Lincoln fans have, so never change, lad, never change. But it's a tough run of games coming up now, and even though there's 2 home games in there, Ipswich are bang on form. Think of their first 5, they're not beaten, they've only drawn 1. They're scoring goals from all over the pitch, even though they've lost James Norwood to injury. Fleetwood, I think, have had a tough start, but just finding their feet. I mean, they absolutely thumped Hull, and they're going to want to do the same to us. They've got a decent side. What I would say with Fleetwood, I think it's a tough one because they do like to play a bit of football, but they've got a bit of the manager's aggression as well. You think of forwards like Ched Evans and Paddy Madden. These are proper, strong, old campaigners. And we're going to miss Adam Jackson for that. I don't expect to see TJ Ioma, for instance, dropping into centre-half, or Sean Rowan dropping into centre-half. I think it might be a full debut for Joe Walsh from the off. I might be wrong. I think Adam Jackson, when he plays well, balances Lewis Monsma. Now, Monsma's a massive player for us, big fan of Monsma. But defensively, if you watch, there are elements to his game that he still has to work on. And these are young players. We're developing them. There's a reason Michael says keep this group together for another year and we might be challengers, because he's got a year's worth of work to do with really promising players, and there's elements of their games that he needs to look at. And I think defensively, at times, there are elements of Monsma's game that need looking at. No criticism at all. One of our strongest performers of the season. But when we have Jackson next to him, Jackson is kind of the weight, the kind of the organisational sense that allows a more free-spirited centre-half to then steal the headlines. And I think a little bit towards Waterfall and Braggart. Waterfall was the weight, the older head, the kind of steady Eddie centre-half. And Sean Raggett was the, I'll run 20 yards with it at my feet, I'll pop up at the back stick. Rags gets all the plaudits, but in actual fact, you look at a player like Waterfall and then realise his importance. And I'm sure if my good friend Pete was watching, he would say a similar story about, I think it was Vidic and Ferdinand. You always have to have that kind of steady Eddie. The way I see it, with Rowan and Ioma, both really good centre-backs, proved it against Mansfield, against proper centre-forwards. But I don't know if you would partner either of those with Monsma against a side like Fleetwood who are going to bully and batter. Potentially against Ipswich, it would work a little better. Ipswich probably don't have that same style of centre-forward, dare I say. Potentially, they've got the boy from Portsmouth, Ollie Hawkins. Better game for me. I think that the sort of threat that Hawkins brings is a bit different to Madden. Hawkins isn't quite as clever with the dark arts, whereas certainly Madden and Ched Evans perhaps are. But, we're talking about these two big kind of double headers in Fleetwood and Ipswich. In the middle there, we've got a home game against Plymouth Argyle, a team I've always known as a bogey team for us, just like Bristol Rovers, the sort of team that you always used to see on the fixture list and think, oh, God. And ultimately come away with nothing. I've seen us lose at home, I think 3-0. I'd have to check the record books. But very, very rarely have I seen us beat them. They're not a bad side, but they play football. And that's really going to suit us. I think, sorry, just reading the comment there. I think the way that they play, and if they're still, I'd have to have a proper look, if they're still playing in Brian Lowe's 3-5-2, it's going to allow us to get in a little bit around the back. I think now Harry isn't playing as one-dimensional this season. A 3-5-2 kind of suits him in a way, because there are spaces, there is an opportunity to cut inside. He can look to tease a fullback. Lots and lots of pressure on the wing backs. Plymouth are going to come to us probably and play like a 5-3-2 and then look to go to a 3-5-2 when they attack. So they're going to want us to go on to them. But we'll have some key players back. I think having Brennan Johnson back, I'm almost tempted to say Michael might even change it up a little bit for the next game. I wonder if he might go back to the 4-4-1-1. Prior to the season starting, I remember being told by a contact at the club that that's probably Michael's preferred formation. But he didn't have the right number 10. When I chatted to Michael myself, he said, I want a number 10 that quickly turns into a 9. I want a 10 that can get ahead of the striker. I want a 10 that is comfortable playing facing goal, not with his back to goal. And that's a very specific number 10. He said, if I wanted a number 10 that played with his back to goal and looked to kind of pull it out wide and that sort of thing, I would have kept Jack Payne, who incidentally is impressing Swindon fans at the minute. But I didn't want that. He's got Brennan Johnson. He's going to have to fit Johnson in somewhere. Now, I can't see at the moment him dropping Harry Anderson. See Harry Anderson probably remaining out wide on the right. Don't see him playing as a regular right wing back. If we are in for Robbie Gotts, I think that's even more of a suggestion that potentially we're looking to cover that right wing back space a little more carefully. Aaron Lewis, I think Cornell has said that he expects him to play Saturday. Absolutely not, in my opinion. Don't think Aaron will play. Wouldn't be surprised if Aaron isn't one of the ones that's looked to go out on loan, if I'm honest. It's a bit baffling. He's always injured for Lincoln, but he seems fit when he goes away with Wales. I think there's a little more to that story. And I think he's got some work to do to get back in the first team reckoning. Hence our link with a player that can play at right wing back. But I can see Harry still playing on the right. It does cut down on the options in midfield, because I can also see on recent form Theo Archibald being an option on the left. That would leave George Grant to play in the middle. But then where do you drop players? Because McGrandles, I actually thought, was man of the match on Saturday. I thought he worked really hard. And chatting to Pete yesterday, he kind of agreed. He said it's probably easier to get man of the match on a game that you lose when you go off on 70 minutes, because those last 20 minutes where you're kind of throwing everything forward and misplacing passes, you're not involved. But I thought McGrandles played really well. James Jones has been virtually ever present, a solid first team player. So are you going to drop him? Probably not. Wasn't great on Saturday, but wasn't woeful, as one person I saw say. Never going to drop Bridcut. So, there's an awful lot of options still there, which are brought about simply by Brennan Johnson coming back, which we didn't have on Saturday. purely by the fact that Johnson wasn't there. So I think it does go to show how delicate the squad might be if there is an injury crisis. We've seen a little bit of one across the back, an injury crisis. I think we've got the flexibility to cover, but whether we've got the flexibility to cover over a long period of time, I don't know, which is why I do expect potentially a little bit of movement this week. Will it be in transfer deadline week? We'll wrap up with a little bit on that, because one of the questions, can't find it now, is what do I expect us to do in the week? Oh, it's nice out there now. Wouldn't surprise me to see Jordan Adebayo-Smith leave. Whether that's on loan, I don't know. Maybe there might be a train of thought that he might not look up to scratch at the moment, but he's our player, so you loan him out to the National League. You never know, he might go out, find the right team, score 20 goals for them, and suddenly he's an asset to us. So it might be on loan. They might look to fix him up a permanent club. It wouldn't surprise me to see Alex Bradley go out on loan. I know Alex likes to play in the midfield. From what Michael tells me, he thinks he's got a long-term future as a fullback because he's very good with the game in front of him, kind of an intelligent footballer in that respect. But again, I don't think that he's a right back. He's the sort of quality that you could play in League One, even for the last 20 minutes of a game at this moment in time. I think he's another one of those young players that probably needs game time. I think if they were to go out, then if we are in for Robbie Gotts, that would certainly be one option. It wouldn't surprise me to see us use the loan market. Obviously, we've got Callum Morton on loan who's injured. TJ Ioma, Brennan Johnson, Jamie Sewell and Alex Palmer. So there's 5 for the matchday squad, but one of them ain't going to be in the matchday squad, Morton, so that's 4, so there is a space there. And I think when Morton comes back, potentially Sewell then returns to West Brom. So it could be argued that somebody who's got a little bit of flexibility in terms of positions may be brought in. I think somebody that can operate in a full-back position wouldn't surprise me at all. I think at left back we're covered. I think we spoke about Eden, or I spoke about Eden at the top of the show. I actually think he's a decent left back. I think he had a bad game on Saturday, as did a few players. I think he will learn from that. I think Eden's going to grow into the season. Firmly believe that. Prefer him in midfield, but there's that flexibility again. Max Melbourne, I think when he's fit, is probably vying for the first choice left back with Sean Rowan. I think Rowan's probably been taken out of the firing line a little bit because he had a tough time against Blackpool. Certainly bounced back in style against Mansfield Town. And again, he will probably vie for left back. But at right back, you've got Ioma, who I think has proven himself again to be a really solid acquisition. But outside of that, it's square pegs in round holes already. Alex Bradley, midfielder, probably not quite League One right back at the moment. Harry, certainly a winger who can play right back. And as I said, Aaron Lewis, Reece Marshall said he's got to feel for him a bit. He's impressed every time he's made an appearance. He has, but remember, players have got to impress, not just when we see them on iFollow or at the ground. They've got to impress 5 days a week on the training ground. And sometimes we don't see why a manager makes a decision. So we base all our decisions, all our kind of opinions on what we see on a Saturday afternoon. Whereas the manager has to work with 5-6 days a week. So we don't see what's happened with Aaron. We know that he's been unlucky with his injuries. We know that he went away with Wales and played 90 minutes when he should have played 45, and that brought him back with injuries. Again, interesting. Couple of interesting points. Neil Tunstall. Well, it depends on Walsh being match fit by Saturday. If he's not, I'd give TJ a go at centre-back. He's been the most consistent player so far. I like TJ. I agree with you to a degree there, Neil. If Joe Walsh is not fit, then we have to play one of Rowan or Ioma. Like Ioma, big, strong player. Plays like a 23, 24-year-old to me, not a 19-year-old or whatever he is. Plays with a certain amount of poise. He can pick a pass. He's strong. He doesn't get knocked off the ball particularly easily. Thought he was really unlucky to get taken off actually on Saturday. I understand why it happened. I thought that he did think he was quite unfortunate. So, my good friend Pete says Walsh cover at right back potentially. I think in the system that we play, our fullbacks have got to be really up and down, and I'm not sure whether Joe Walsh, one, that would be that player, or two, if he is that player, would be ready to be that player on his first appearance in however many weeks. I would see him playing more centrally when there's less pressure on him having to get up and down the line. but again, it is an option. So there we go. That's pretty much it. In terms of the transfer business, as I've said, I suppose there's always a chance that one might come in when you're somebody like Michael Appleton, who has got contacts. There might be somebody at a club now who's looking to get a player out on loan late on. Premier League clubs might have made more of a decision. I suppose a lot depends on how benevolent they're feeling as well in terms of our budget. There's a fly landed on me. So, you know, I think probably most of the print journalists and the likes of Rob and Michael Horton may expect one if one goes out. But I think that's pretty much the theme across the board. I was reading some Swindon Town stuff yesterday. The Swindon Advertiser and Richie Wellens is saying the same. You know, if two go out, one can come in. That's the salary cap for you now. I think that's the reality. I think this transfer deadline, which is 5 p.m. on Friday, I believe, I think it's going to be considerably slower for some teams. Some might be busy. I can see maybe the likes of Charlton Athletic being quite busy. Teams that are a little more cash rich may be busy, but very, very few deals I think will be concluded. I certainly won't be sitting by my computer at 4:30 expecting a flurry of deals as we used to get. I think that the way the summer has gone and the way the transfer market is at the moment, you know, isn't conducive to that sort of thing. So, hello, thanks for watching. Whole time you've been watching, the forum has been scrolling along at the bottom there. No, this is something that's quite important to me, if I'm honest. I'm really keen to make the forum a success. At the minute, we're getting anywhere between kind of 300 and 700 views a day. You don't even have to register. You can just pop along to the address, have a read through some of the points. I'm not being so coy as to release articles on there or anything like that. But you know, every click raises money. I think, if I remember correctly, every 1,000 clicks is around £1. So at the minute, we're making around about £1 a day, give or take. Not huge sums, but over the course of a year, certainly worth having in the club's pocket. You know, and if everybody on here went to visit kind of, you know, twice a day, every day, that might go up to £2-3, who knows. So really, really important. If you do feel like it, join up, comment, get involved. The more comments that are there, more people flow. It's the chicken and egg situation, I suppose. You know, the more eggs the chicken lay, the more chickens that you're then going to get hatched. So another analogy there that Ben would be proud of. So please do visit it. If the thing at the bottom's kind of whizzing past too quickly, don't worry. Go to stacywest.net, my site, which I hope you're familiar with. Click on the forum at the top and there'll be a link there to take you straight to it. Costs nothing at all to register. And I'm looking, is that something on my face? No, it's on the phone. I'm looking to just pick up any sort of little bit of slack from people who kind of want to use a forum but don't want to use the existing forum Vitals for one reason or another. Again, great work that they do, not looking to take away from that at all. So look, I hope you have a good Tuesday. When I get back, I've got some articles to write about movie music and team building exercises around casino games, which is going to be particularly interesting. And it's 5 p.m. deadline for the 100 players. I noticed over last night I had another 75 votes, which takes us to over 500 votes now for the 100 greatest or the 100 best players of a generation. A lot of planning is going to go into that for a week on Thursday. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's turned from rain when I left to sunshine, which is brilliant. Thank you for watching. I hope the mic was fine. So it certainly seems to have done the job. Superb. Have a nice day. Bye.